Aromie here, and welcome back to Our Life Derek DLC. We are now gonna enter Siblings DLC. You stretch your arms high as you step into the spot on your wooden floor where the last rays of sunshine landed. The remaining warmth of the days was still enough to tickle your skin. Does my room look slightly different? You felt pleasantly full from dinner, and the only thing that was left on your plate was waiting for a knock. Well, hi, Derek. Are you like hanging out with me today? In here? Derek closed your door as he came in behind you. You'd gotten to spend the afternoon together. You knew his mom would arrive to pick him up any minute. Thanks for having me over, Michiko. You don't have to thank me for that. And why am I not surprised you tried to take dishwashing duty away from Elizabeth? Derek pressed his palms together, flipping each hand over and under in a loop. It would almost be viewed as a mock washing gesture, but he was probably being awkward. I just thought it'd be fair. I didn't help with the cooking. You're so sweet, you're funny, you're too much, you're welcoming to my dishes, Derek. You shook your head amused, and you sighed. No, you're very sweet.
Aww.
Thanks. Oh, Derek, Mr. Manners. But before you could settle in enough to even take a seat, a pounding set of thuds cracked the laid-back mood. Derek scrunched his limbs totally inward from the shock. You'd been keeping an ear out for the exact sound, but it was completely unnecessary. Tourists halfway across town would have missed that blare. The racket was followed by the door Derek had so carefully closed moments ago, roughly swinging open. Obviously, the person on the other side wasn't Miss Suarez. It was your older sister with a huff and an eye roll. She delivered a brief message as fast as she could spit it out.
Come on.
Derek's mom is here, and our mom made me come get you about it. We're coming. Why did you knock if you weren't going to give us a chance to answer? We got the message. Go do the dishes, Elizabeth. That's rude. Thanks for telling us. What a great messenger gal. You stared at her wordlessly. She gave you another eye roll of her eyes, but didn't waste a single extra word on you. In one moment, she curled her fingers around the edge of the door, twisted around, and yanked the door shut. The books and boxes on your desk shelves shook. Derek's teeth clattered too. He whispered through the grimace. I can't read today. Sorry for that. She's so rude. Want to trade Nicholas or George for her? I'll take both if you want. You groaned in frustration. Are your eardrums alright? Looked away in embarrassment over your family. Sorry for that. No worries, it's not your fault. She gets extra grouchy sometimes. Right now, for example, Derek's shoulders slowly eased down into the resting position, but expression was pinched. He began to whisper while glancing the way your sister went. His voice was hushed, secretive, almost afraid Elizabeth might slap the door open again and find out he was talking about her. Do you think it's about the dishes, or... I don't know. You could only give a half-hearted answer. You struggled to understand why Elizabeth acted out the way she did a lot of the time. But your mom is waiting. We've got to go so you can get home. Right, Michiko? Derek's mouth opened and closed without saying anything else. He lifted a hand to try gesturing, but dropped that without it going anywhere. It made you raise your eyebrow. Yeah? His bright green eyes squinted hard into narrow slits, but you could still see the way they darted around. His gaze was trained on the ground, scanning across the floorboards, though everything that really mattered was probably inside his actual head.
Well,
I was wondering... He paused again. Derek's hands balled into tight fists. He let out a breath and finally asked a question. Are you busy tomorrow? You blinked. That was all? No? The simple answer still made Derek flinch. It might not be all.
really?
Yeah, really. That's what I said. Then he spread his fingers and arms out in not quite a shrug. But you want to come over to my house for the day? The tone of voice and pose he took was casual in a scripted way. He definitely wanted you to feel like it was totally optional, and no problem if you turned him down. You couldn't tell if that was the end or just another point in the process, but you were going along for the ride. I can probably do that. I have to ask my mom's. Derek leaned in closer, slowly opening his eyes wider. Some kind of suspense was growing.
Alright.
He dipped his head in tiny, repetitive nods. Then... Why is he being so weird? The look on his face went distant again, the way it did when he was thinking deeply. Then finally he flung his hands open up to complete the shrug, and spoke the question he'd been stalling on. Would you want to come over tonight instead and sleep over? We could camp out in my living room. It'd be fun, our own little party. Aww, I think he's trying to make us feel better and to get us away from Elizabeth. Now the nervousness made sense to you. Now you're the one feeling nervous. You're completely stunned. Your confusion was compounded. You almost laughed. It absolutely tickled you. I think I would feel nervous now. He's so cute, bro. I know that's pretty out of nowhere. If you can't make it or don't want or anything, I'm totally cool with it. Shouldn't you ask your mom before you do this idea? I want to. Hopefully my moms will let me. Let's do. Yeah, but why? You're not happily in agreement with your parents, but you able to manage that? I don't know, maybe. I want to. Hopefully my mom's will let me.
Awesome.
Come on, we'll ask right now. Yeah, definitely. My mom is waiting for us. The two of you left your bedroom and bounded down the stairs one after the other. Your warm greeting came as you hit the landing point at the first floor. Hello, Derek and Michiko. Your two moms and Derek's mom were gathered in the entryway of the living room. Derek reached a hand out towards her and waved it. Hey, Mom. Hey, welcome to our house, even though you've been here a few minutes already. After smiling at him and at you, Derek's mom turned her head over to her shoulder to speak to your parents. Thank you again for taking care of him. Mom? Derek uncharacteristically broke polite decorum by interrupting his mom. It got her attention. She let him speak. I had something I wanted to ask you and Miss Melody. Oh? What is it, sweetie? He had the attention and encouragement of all three mothers. On this stage, Derek didn't beat around the bush the way he did before.
Please?
I was wondering if Michiko could come with us and spend the night at my house, please? He knew your mom's well enough to foresee potential concerned reactions, and so Derek sped through his extra terms to make sure they heard that part before answering. We'd set up in the living room instead of my room. My parents and brothers would still be around. People could keep an eye on us. As expected, Mom and Mom weren't instantly thrilled. They were shocked by the possibility. And while he was successful in avoiding the first obvious pitfall, your mom still had a completely different apprehension to fret about.
I don't know.
It's pretty last minute. You're about to walk out the door. We couldn't have Michiko impose. Derek's mom stayed strongly silent after he popped the question. She fixed a stare at her son, crossed her arms against her chest, and shook her head at him. But the shake didn't mean no. It had another meaning that made only a Suarez could get. Still, she smiled.
Yes.
We could find a place for Michiko tonight if there's no family conflict with that, and she would like to come over, of course. Both your moms turned their faces right towards one another on instinct. They were astonished that Derek's mom didn't mind. Huh. Mom scratched her head over it. Derek had made a huge request with no advance warning, and Miss Suarez had 3 children to take care of already. It seemed unreasonable to her. For your mom, however, a light began to sparkle in her eyes, and when she noticed you looking, she held her gaze. Michiko, do you want to go? Yes, so much. Mom wrapped both her arms around one of her wives.
In that case?
I see. I think that will be alright just this time. Really? Your mom sputtered. She clearly hadn't gotten to that page of the script. Mom got an encouraging pat on top of her head for her troubles. She remained absolutely perplexed, mouth open, eyes wide. Mom could only process enough to realize that she'd become the odd mom out. She probably didn't know exactly why she was doing it, but Mom turned to look at you. Pack it up, Michiko. You wouldn't want to keep them waiting. You snapped your gaze to Derek. He'd done the same. The two of you shared a matching look of astoundment. It was almost identical to the gesture your moms had made when Miss Suarez first accepted Derek's proposition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Melody and Melody. Thanks, Moms. Yes, no way. Thank you. You're at a loss for words. Thank you. The deal was finalized with a crisp clap from Miss Suarez. Pamela is right. You should get what you'll need for the night. You're coming along for the ride. I'll help. Neither of you gave them the time to change their minds. You ran back to your room and began to pack in a whirlwind. As you shoved clothes in a backpack, Derek hovered in the center of the room. He fidgeted with his energy that was being unused. Can you get me a spare toothbrush? There's an extra for traveling in the hall closet.
I'm on it.
Gotcha. He was gone in a flash. You made sure to get the basics and something you personally couldn't go without. Teddy bear. Sorry, teddy bear? Your favorite stuffed animal. I saw a camera as well, but it's okay. Favorite stuffed animal. You made a note in your head to ask your mom to tell Cove where to be, since there wasn't time to explain it in person. But then you remembered a conversation you had with him that morning. He had plans the next day and wouldn't be around for a lot of it anyway. Derek's invite had come at a convenient time. Derek returned in a sprint, a toothbrush held over his head in triumph. With a grin, he threw it into the overnight bag. That was enough to get you by for a short trip. You zipped it up, hugged it up around his shoulder, and went out the door. You check off the final requirements to leave. For the second time in a matter of minutes, you rushed down your stairs in a flurry of steps with Derek, close enough that you almost stumbled into him. At the bottom, you came to stand in front of the mom group. We're ready.
Good night.
Perfect. Good luck, kiddos. Have a great time. Gently and rhythmically, Ma ran her hand over your hair. All her precious hopes for your safety and happiness ebbed from her fingertips into you.
Take care.
Good night, Michiko. Take care. Nice to see you. Or night, see you, not nice to see you. Miss Suarez and Derek gave their own goodbyes, and afterwards they returned to the minivan that had brought them here. And then, almost unbelievably, you slid into the vehicle with them to go on the impromptu sleepover. The cello, the squeaky leather against your hands, and the persistent smell of cracker Cracker crumbs kept you grounded in reality. Derek bounced against the seat back like a kid on a roller coaster and clicked his belt into place for the ride back to his condo. He strapped in too. You never could have imagined that evening taking you down this literal and metaphorical road, but you were eager to find out what happened next. The sun continued to sink as Derek's mom drove down the highway. When you arrived at your destination, still had night. The condo complex was nicely lit and well maintained. The three of you easily made your way out to Derek's house and went right in. Slipping her set of jingling keys onto a nearby wall hook, Miss Suarez called out into the hall from the empty living room. "We're home!" You braced your ears for the second sibling caused commotion of that evening that you knew would come. Nicholas tore out of his bedroom and thundered across the floor until he had his arms gripped around his big brother's legs. Even with all the force 6-year-old Nicholas could muster, it was hardly a bump against Derek. He absorbed the impact calmly, giving his little sibling a pat on the head for his troubles. "Yeah, we're back." The two remaining boys of the family came from the same room at a snail's pace in comparison to the first. But soon enough, Mrs. Suarez and George were there with you too.
Welcome back.
Welcome home. George rubbed a growing sleepiness from one eye. He took in the scene with undistinguished confusion. Undisguised confusion. Why is Michiko here? "I've come to visit. I'm sleeping over." You looked down and waited for someone to explain. "What do you mean? I live here," you teased. I'm sleeping over." "What? Mom?" She answered matter-of-factly. "Michiko's staying over with us tonight." George clamped his mouth shut. He might have had something to say about the spur-of-the-moment plans, but was obedient enough to not argue with his mother. Mr. Suarez, however, had a childlike glee in his expression. "Oh, very good." Derek cut in his dad's excitement with the reply a little too soon. He had completely normal words to say, but it'd been put on fast forward. "Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Dad."
Anyway.
"Oh, we're gonna camp out in the living room. Can we borrow the tent?" Derek's hands were balled into fists and held up near his collarbone, overzealously, kind of protective. His father looked down at him with a familiar, serene expression. You knew exactly where he'd seen it before when Mr. Suarez placed his hand on the top of Derek's head. He took care of Derek the same way Derek cared for Nicholas. Of course. And the gesture worked the exact same charm on Derek. His shoulders relaxed, his expression softened shyly. The pounding nerves that had been building faded. "Camping!" Nicholas shouted without warning. The entire exchange had held no interest for the youngest one until that moment. "That's right, Nico." Derek reached down and carefully placed his hand on Nicholas's shoulders to nudge him off. Nicholas went willingly, giddily, repeating the same word, this time in an amazed confirmation rather than as a question. "Camping!" With a thumbs up, Derek stood tall. The plan was in motion. "Michiko, you can put your bag down, sit if you want to. I'll grab some other stuff." When moving past you, Derek took a second to lean in and whisper a lighthearted reassurance.
It's okay.
"The little bros will go to bed before we do, and Mom is going to be watching them tomorrow. You're not here to babysit the whole time again." Derek, you're so sweet, bruh. Okay, cool. I don't think this is gonna top the RV camping trip we had with Cove, though. That is still by far my favorite. The whole conversation in that storyline is my favorite. The time we learned he loves anklets, and then like we snuck up on top of the top compartment of the RV to sleep with Cove. By far the cutest shit ever. The whole group broke off into 3 sets. Derek ran to his room with Nicholas right on his heels, while Mr. and Miss Suarez left the space of the kids, returning to their own bedroom. You and George stayed where you were. George shuffled over to the kitchen counter to sit on a bar stool. He wasn't helping, but he wasn't getting in the way. George was more sensitive than he let on, and he made sure to smile reassuringly over at him, so he knew he was wanted there. His lips quirked up just a little in response. Then you took your own seat on the couch and got to unpacking. The first thing you pulled out of the bag was your stuffed animal. You placed that on the coffee table for safekeeping. You kept busy sorting through it all until Derek returned with the goods. 2 pillows were under each of his arms. He had a few brightly patterned blankets draped over his shoulders, and the rope loop of a big nylon pack was hooked around one wrist. Nicholas supported the effort by carrying one long pillow. He clutched it tight to his chest as best as he could, considering the pillow was about as long as his whole torso. Derek piled up the supplies on the opposite side of the couch from where you were. Nicholas opened his arms wide to let his pillow drop to the floor in a soft puff. It made Derek chuckle proudly.
Okay.
"I'm gonna put together the tent. Nicholas, George, do you want to help?"
I'll help.
I'm gonna put together
the tent.
Oh, thank God you fucking read that, but
Okay.
I talked over you, my bad.
I'll help. I'm gonna put together the tent.
This game would be 10 times better if I did not have to read every dialogue, because my throat is killing me. Nicholas bounced around Derek in absolute eagerness. In the distance, George pushed away from the counter.
Yeah.
His expression was flat and wide-eyed, but there was a hopeful rise in his voice as he got up from the bar stool. I'm here too, remember? I'm helping. Let's do it. The declaration made you, Derek, Nicholas, and George get to work making heads and tails of the tent. Derek yanked open the cinch and top of the pack while he walked to the furthest spot in the living room. Everyone followed his lead. He pushed a semicircle basket chair up against the edge of the counter wall so the tent could go there instead. Derek dumped the contents of the bag onto the cream rug. He leaned over on one foot while kicking the other in the air to reach over and grab the instructions that fell out with the rest of the materials. He scanned over the steps briefly, but it was only a refresher. Derek was able to get right into the process. Nicholas was assigned to pole control. He kept watch on the pile, not letting any roll away, and would pass the tent legs over when they were needed. Stretching the fabric out took the rest of you, George, and Derek. Each grabbed a side and tugged. Derek had to squeeze himself against the tall potted plant in the corner. He snickered at the way the leaves curled around his face. Despite that, you got the tent laid out across the ground. The first time Nicholas got to pass a pole, it slapped against the wall in the tiny space you were working in. George covered his ears and ducked. Derek snatched the end out of the air before it could do more damage. The little boy promised to be more careful. He got to keep his job and took it seriously. Piece by piece, the project slowly shaped until it was finally complete. The small, light gray tent sat in full form, nestled into the nook of the living room.
Good job, team.
As if he yelled into a cave, an echo of his words followed after. Good job! Nicholas threw his hands in the air with joy. George simply smiled, satisfied. Thanks for the help, everyone is a beauty. He applauded the success. I'm impressed we didn't break it. Good job, I think I would applaud. Derek stuck his fist to his hips and gave the team an encouraging grin. Now we can actually do the indoor camping part of this living room camp out. Derek strolled up to the cabinet in the corner. He pulled open the translucent doors to fiddle around with something else. A poppy tune blared out. He turned on a CD player. Nicholas leapt onto the couch and swung his arms in the air to dance. George swayed his shoulders to bubblegum notes. Their big brother wasn't done yet. He made a beeline for the kitchen cupboard next. This time the moose setter Derek retrieved was a pillow-sized bag of puffy marshmallows. Catch! There was only warning before he sent the marshmallow sailing across the room in a perfect arc. George managed to catch it from the air without a problem. The top of the bag was twisted around and sealed with a blue clip. The open side was stretched from the process of twisting and untwisting repeatedly. Had been well appreciated so far. George undid the clip and set it aside on the coffee table. His tongue pressed against the corner of his lips as he dug his hand deep into the bag for just the right one. Nicholas tilted over from the cushion and into the bag to fill his tiny fist with 2 marshmallows. He crushed them between his fingers, the fluffy confection squeezing through the cracks. It really was a party. Derek put his hand on the cupboard handle and shouted to you over the music. Do you like marshmallows? Of course. They're not bad, yeah. You plucked one out of the bag and ate it as your answer. No, but thank you. Ew. You shook your head apologetically. No, you pluck one out. The cupboard door swung closed, and nothing was there to obstruct your view of the bright grin on his face anymore. He finally joined the rest at base camp, which was the couch at the moment. George, give me one of those too. Without even one warning, George simply flicked a marshmallow at his brother. The same as before, Derek grabbed it in midair. He bit one piece out of the top edge, chewing thoughtfully.
Okay.
There's no TV while camping, so having a sleepover movie wouldn't make sense. With the swallow of a marshmallow and a snap of his fingers, Derek empathetically could declare a grand idea. We'll play an ad-lib game. I'll make up a story and the 3 of you can fill in some blanks and make it complete. George rolled over his shoulder passively. He had finished his first treat and was poking around for another perfect selection. Okay. Nicholas smiled a big white smile, but it wasn't just pearly teeth. His entire mouth was full of marshmallow mush. He took that reaction as a yes. The little ones were on board. Yeah, this is gonna be good. Alright, let me think. We need a noun, a thing you can drive or ride on, a shape, a color, a food, and a drink. Nicholas gulped painfully, forcing down way too much of the marshmallow goop all at once, but he wouldn't let anyone beat him to the punch. A truck! A truck! Nicholas's eyes were wide. He was practically vibrating from the sugar high mixed with the chance to add a truck to the story. Derek rubbed his back placingly. Oh fuck, what's that word? That's the ride, George. The middle child plucked at the frayed plastic edge of the marshmallow bag. It might have taken him longer to come up with something than the youngest, but he did contribute an idea. Blue. Cool, I've got a color, Michiko. The noun is for the food. It's the drink could be. I'll pick the shape. It's don't worry about me. Let them choose. You quietly shook your head to signal Derek to move past you. Can I do food? For the food, type in a food. I could just type chicken. Fried chicken. Actually, fried chicken. Fried chick. No! You know what? Okay, chicken. Gotcha. He shifted his focus back to the boys. Derek's expression and the entire way he carried himself was different when speaking to them. It reminded you of a teacher interacting with the students. George, Nicholas, give me some more words. Oh. Hexagon.
Nice.
Look, that's the shape. Apple juice. Perfect.
Cool.
There's a drink. Derek continued to warmly watch over his little siblings, but the words he spoke were for you. Michiko, you're giving us the last one, a noun. The noun should be... What is a noun? Person, thing, or place, yeah? It's been a while since I did one of these. Wait, I gotta make sure that's what a noun is, cause your girl dumb. What is a noun? People, place, or thing. Okay, I was right. I'm gonna give him the person as Derek. His expression somehow softened even more. Awesome. Derek pulled his chest back and folded his arms. He smirked. What is the story gonna be? He smirked, brows angled, and eyes squinted.
All right.
I can now tell you the story of Baby Castle. Baby Castle? Nicholas stamped his feet rapidly into the couch. He was absolutely squealing from the premise alone. Baby Castle? Yes, that's right. In a big open field, there was a stone fortress that was Baby Castle. Everyone who lived there was a little baby, but they didn't need any adults. Their greatest treasure was a giant golden Derek. What the fuck? At the center of the courtyard, they were always vigilant to protect it from the greedy hands of grown-ups. That sounds like our own Lord and Savior. It's just a statue of Derek. George snorted. His mouth and cheeks began to pull upwards. Then one day someone came to the gates of the castle on their truck. It was a man, not a baby or even a kid. He had a hexagon-shaped head, oh god, and a fancy top hat. He was knocking on the door, demanding to be let in. They were just babies, and they needed supervision. It was a blue alert, and the guards were rushing to their stations. The first line of defense was our chicken catapult. It was loaded up and then fired. Bullseye! The chicken knocked the top hat off his head, but the hexagon-faced man wasn't deterred. He used his giant grown-up legs to climb over the wall. There was a panic in the castle. He had to be after their golden Derek. Derek shifted his weight from foot to foot with precision. His hands had gone up in front of him with his palms facing forward. He looked like the goalie of a soccer game. But the babies weren't beaten yet. The squirt gun battalion lined up. As soon as the adult stepped foot on the other side, he was pelted with apple juice. He stumbled back, and the gatekeepers opened the door while he was blinded. He got pushed right out and back onto his truck. The guards gave one more shove, and the man was with his truck and without his hat, slid down the hill far away. The castle was saved. The babies and their Derek were still free. Hooray! The end. A matching pair of cheers filled the air. Nicholas and George were thrilled by the yarn Derek has spun for them. You applauded the grand conclusion of the tale as Baby Castle 2. It was a pretty dumb story, but very cute. No, you sniggered into your hands just as amused as George and Nicholas. It honestly impressed you how well Derek could improvise. The whole thing seemed really juvenile. No, it's funny. That was amazing. The living room campsite blowout kept rolling from there. Derek turned the music up louder, making sure to skip any track that didn't fit the mood. George and Nicholas swung across the floor to dance. They threw marshmallows in the air and tried catching them with their mouths. And when that got old, they tried to see who could fit the most in their mouth at one time. Derek grooved to the beat and tapped his toes around as he collected the treats they missed, picked up the pillows they knocked to the floor, and patted backs when their stuffed faces made them cough. But he wasn't only Mr. Responsible. Derek took his own shot at the marshmallow mouthful competition and blew his little brothers out of the water. You danced along with the boys. You were a new challenger in the marshmallow game. You threw your own marshmallow into the air. You took a turn telling your own Alep story. Threw your own marshmallows into the air, and you caught everyone. You caught some while the others ended up on the floor. Landed on the floor, they all hit your face. They all hit your face. Despite the embarrassing showing, Derek gathered up each one and complimented the attempt. It was still fun. As the night continued, Derek moved on from the party hotspot to chill out inside the tent. He was on his side, propped by his elbow. It took a few minutes for Nicholas to notice his brother's disappearance from his sightlines. He knew the moment it happened. He had been bounding from cushion to cushion on the couch, but came to a firm stop, sticking his feet deep into place. A helpless pout flickered on Nicholas's face before it almost instantly curved into a slight grin. Nicholas knew where he could find his favorite person. He leapt from the arm of the couch to land at the entrance of the tent. From there, he sprung forward like a shot straight into Derek, shoving him over over onto his back with an oof. Derek didn't get up. He flopped his arms out and lay motionless. 3, 2, 1. Derek's down for the count. Nicholas was the winner. Claiming his victory, Nicholas curled up on Derek's flattened chest. He tuckered himself out. You sat stretched out on the blanket inside the tent. You sat balled up on the blanket inside the tent. You laid on the blanket. You sat stretched out on the floor near the tent. We're going to be inside the tent. Is he laying down? We'll lay down with him. George wandered over to sit down cross-legged. He had one shoulder in the tent and the rest of him was out. Derek's eyes drooped closed and he heaved a satisfied sigh.
Sheesh.
I'm too old to keep up with you bros. You can party way harder than me. He could still muster enough energy to move a hand over his brother's fluffy marshmallow speckled hair. The little boy snuggled his cheek into Derek's jersey even more. Still cross-legged, George took hold of his ankles and rocked himself gently back and forth. The childlike position conflicted how contemplative his next words were.
I wonder what things will be like when we really are older.
Depressing. The brother with the most days behind him softly smiled softly while his eyes remained shut. That's easy. 10 years from now, I'm going to be a famous athlete. Nicholas will obviously be the cheer captain at all my games. Derek earned a squealing giggle from Nicholas. He even kicked a leg out like a puppy who's got a stomach scratch. George, you'll be my career manager. George stopped his movement, sitting a little taller. A smile pulled at the edges of his mouth.
Obviously.
Michiko will be there too. That pricked your own interest. Yeah, I'll be on the same sport team, whatever it is. I'll be Derek's I'll be Derek's trophy wife? I would. What would I be doing? Well, yeah, I'll be on the competing team, whatever it is. I'll take care of the merchandising. You waited for him to keep going. I want to know what he thinks I would be doing, but dead ass, I want to be his trophy wife. Derek coughed unintentionally as soon as you said your contribution to the master plan, but he rolled with it. Right, it's the best trophy I ever won, top of the shelf. Then his voice drifted off quietly, and the four of us would all be neighbors. Your heart skipped a beat. He wanted to live next to you, wanted you to be a part of his future. Derek, George, and Nicholas. He glanced at each of their faces and felt glad he got to be here. You went to different schools, lived in different towns, had different families, but sometimes you were able to share your worlds with each other. And maybe someday Derek's story would come true, and you'd be even closer. But that time wasn't now, and all too soon. The Suarez's parents reappeared to take their younger children off for bed in their own room. Despite nearly being asleep already, Nicholas grasped Derek's shirt when his dad reached in to pick him up. Derek kept his one hand on Nicholas's head and pressed the other against the floor, slowly shifting into a sitting position. Nicholas's vice-like grip made it easy to do without either of them falling over. When he was upright, Derek collected his little brother in his arms fully and shuffled out of the tent. This is pretty cool, huh, Nico? Usually I'm all the way in my room, but tomorrow all you have to do is open the door, look down the hall, and I'll be there. Derek whispered soothingly on the path to the back bedroom, putting to bed not just the delicate bundle he carried, but also the lightly resistance the boy would have put up. George trailed behind his other brothers. He didn't need the extra help, but Derek stood in place. He didn't move until the middle one could come up by his side. Altogether, the three Suarez's sons went through the door. He waited in the living room quietly, maybe a minute or two passed before Derek switched off with his parents. He came out empty-handed and they went in. He took wide tiptoeing steps over to the campsite. His sleepiness from before was wiped away by a second wind of excitement. Derek made it back to the tent and put a hand to his mouth, watching the hole like a hawk for any sign of his family.
It's all good.
We've got to change into pajamas, but we don't have to go to sleep for real. You got to your feet, his eagerness rubbing off on you. The both of you quietly bustled between the bathroom and living room, finishing all last-minute prep. Derek's parents lingered at the edge of the hall until both of you and Derek were completely set. PJs on, teeth brushed, the works. Good night, Derek and Michiko.
Good night.
Sleep well, enjoy the great outdoors of the living room. Night, Mom. Night, Dad. Good night, night, good night. Don't let the bed bugs bite. You wave at them. Good night. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Oh my god, it got dark in here quick. As the Suarez hit the light, the condo blinked into darkness. There were footsteps, silence, and the click of a door without door opening and shutting. His parents had returned to their own bedroom, this time to turn in for the rest of the night. With the opening and intermission over, part 2 of the Derek and Michiko at home adventure out could begin. Derek went from sitting up perfectly straight, ready for some non-existent interview, to dropping forward onto his stomach. He squirmed around using his elbows. The effort fluttered the tent and blankets, making a soft crinkling sound. When he had positioned himself facing you, Derek rested his head against the top of one fist. He grinned keenly. The rest of his family might have been right across the condo, but this was still the first chance to talk just between yourselves since the sleepover started. He'd been waiting for it. Oh, you're so cute. Hey, Michiko. His cheeks lifted high, enough to push up the bottom of his eyes as he whispered with a childlike sense of secret sharing.
So,
I was wondering if we were being completely serious. What would you want to do? What would you want to be doing in the future? Do you have, I don't know, a goal or a dream? Yeah, I do, not really. You nodded without a word. You shook your head. The question, my dream is exactly what you were saying before. I'm serious about that. Holy shit, that will be bold. But my girl, I believe I did choose to be bold with him. That made Derek's eyes go wider. He rose off his hand prop stand just a little, like he had been physically lifted up by a growing hope. Really? Imagining you and all the Suarez boys living in the same neighborhood and working together on shared goals was truly perfect. You both relaxed more deeply into the soft petting around you, likely both picturing the same image in your heads.
wow.
That's a really nice dream. Derek contemplatively rolled over his back. The arm that had held his chin up was now tucked under his head for support there instead. His eyes never broke away from yours, despite flipping upside down. He could move as freely as he wanted and was taking full advantage of that. When his siblings were around, he had to work with 8 limbs and 2 heads thanks to Nicholas's literal attachment to him. And that got your train of thought fully on the track of siblings. You opened your mouth and said, I wish I had a little sibling. I'm so glad I'm the youngest of my family. I wonder what it'd be like to be an only child. I wish my older sibling was as nice as you are. I wish I had a second big sibling. Siblings are complicated. I think I wish she was a little nicer. Derek made a valiant attempt to nod along from his lopsided position. Elizabeth isn't a super helpful role model. Sorry if that's mean. It's true. He covered his mouth with his free hand to keep his snickers from getting too loud. Do you ever wish you had a big sibling? How does it feel to be oldest? Would you want more of your? Do you ever wish you had a big sibling? His gaze trailed away from yours for the first time so he could stare at the tent ceiling. I don't think so. Maybe I've never needed a big sibling to look up to because I already had someone for that, my dad. Well, that makes sense. The air in the near complete darkness, I felt warm and comfortable, but the atmosphere began to change. It was too subtle to say exactly why, but enough for you to notice. Michiko? Derek reversed his position again, getting on his stomach. His arms were crossed over the floor in front of him, and he rested his chin down against them. Derek's eyes were on the ground too.
Was it annoying?
Would it be weird to ask if you're having fun? No, it wouldn't be weird. Too late, you've already made it weird. I'm having fun. Are you having fun? Why are you asking? No, it wouldn't be weird. Yeah, that's cool. He clicked his heels together in a rhythm, soft taps and rustling in the blanket. 1, then 2, and 3, 4 in a quick succession, and it repeated again. Derek mumbled into his forearm. I was just really hoping this would be a nice time. The pensive look on his face, the tension in his tone, and your heart pounding harder. Everything felt very serious.
Forget it.
It's nothing. Oh my god, Derek. What do you want to say? What do you want to say? Whatever you say, I'll listen. The squeezing pain in your chest eased, though somehow it was more of a disappointment than a relief. But Derek sprung up on his palms, bringing his head up to your level and beaming directly at you. Have you watched anything cool recently? George and I have been showing Nicholas a lot of great stuff he couldn't see before because he was too little when they came out. He kicked the ball in a different direction and had too high of a defense for you to maneuver it back. But that was alright. You could talk to Derek about anything. You and Derek continued to bounce from topic to topic. You quietly spoke your thoughts out into the air while hidden away from the rest of the world in your camp. It went on through the night until before you realized that your eyes were opening to the morning sunlight. But there was no peace in Derek's household.
Woo!
It's morning! After giving his war cry, Nicholas barreled from his room and catapulted himself into the tent. Derek wrestled with Nicholas on the blankets in a tickle fight. It was a memorable way to begin the day. For breakfast, there was a cupboard full of different cereals and instant oatmeal packets to choose from, plus fruits, berries, and nuts to top it off if you wanted. Each bowl was prepared to its owner's specifications, either by themselves or by Miss Suarez for those too little to reach everything. I got strawberries and cream oatmeal and Added strawberries. Yeah. You glance down the hallway expecting Derek's dad to come join the family soon, but Mrs. Suarez let you know that Mr. Suarez was very sneakily went past you a couple hours ago when you were sleeping. Derek swallowed a spoonful of peach oatmeal and blueberries to know how his dad had to commute. Derek's mom nodded before moving the conversation forward. I'll take you home in the evening. The younger ones can stay with Mr. Suarez then. You have a peaceful ride. Your moms know it'll be a little late. We worked it out yesterday while you were packing. And I'll be out running errands until then. I will be bringing the kids. You two can enjoy your time however you choose.
Is that fine?
Of course. Derek stuck his spoon towards the ceiling and gave you a thumbs up from his bar stool. It's peachy. Derek put his other fist on the counter, double thumbs up. Soon you learned another new thing about Derek's family. His dad commuted very early and all hands were tasked with cleaning up whether they were guests or not. The five of you made quick work of breakfast. Then Miss Suarez, with some more assistance from Derek, corralled George and Nicholas into the minivan to act as helpers during her daily task. George could probably fulfill that role, while Nicholas was more of an honorary helper who still needed more support than he gave. The title was so exciting enough for him to release Derek for 1 minute so he could be strapped into his car seat for the drive. From one job to another, you and Derek were left alone to put the living room back into its proper order. First, your belongings were collected and put aside to make sure nothing got mixed in with the other supplies. The blankets were stuffed back into Derek's room in the spare closet, and any loose marshmallows that were discovered to have escaped being devoured and ended up on the floor were thrown in the trash. Your campsite became a hollow shell of what it once was. It had ended so quickly, but a short adventure in the great outdoors of the Suarez living room was better than none. It was still a minor miracle that you got to come. You didn't forget that. Lastly, the two of you worked as a team to break down the tent itself. You slipped out each of the poles, attracting them to their smaller size, and began to get them packed away into the sturdy bag that came from the night before. While folding up one of the legs, Derek lightheartedly chatted with you.
Oh man.
I'm so excited. The whole day we can do anything before you gotta go. Walk the park, watch a movie, get food somewhere. If you were being entirely honest with yourself, the things he was suggesting and the way he said it almost made you think it was a date. Okay. But Derek certainly didn't claim it was. That's fine. He hummed along with the bounce in his pose. He was having plenty of fun just doing regular chores with you. The good mood was infectious. It's great. I was just thinking about how I was surprised my mom's let me come today. Out of nowhere, Derek twitched like he was hit by a bolt. His hands flipped over protectively, and the pole fumbled out of his grasp. It clattered against the wooden floor, the sharp sound made Derek wince. He gave a meek apology while the leg rolled back against his sneaker, just as pitifully. Sorry. Derek bent his knees and gripped at his shirt's edge on the way down before he reached out to pick up what he dropped. What were you saying? That was pretty off. You didn't miss the blaring sign complete with warning sounds that something was up, but he obviously wasn't comfortable, so he tried and let go. I was just talking about my moms. Usually they're really strict about sleepovers. I can't do it out of nowhere. It's a planned thing. Having it be a camp out in the living room must have helped a lot. You gave a bit of a shrug and scanned around for another piece to put away. I'm gonna have to keep that trick in mind. Oh yeah, that makes sense. They are like that. Derek fiddled uselessly with the dark gray rubber foot at the end of the pole. He was pretending to keep busy. You wondered if you remembered what the two of you were supposed to be busy with. It wasn't going away whether you ignored it or not. Did you think they didn't like you, or that I meant something else?
No.
Forget it. It's dumb and doesn't matter. You and Cope. When I think everything is okay, you guys tell me. You guys obviously point out that it's not. So am I missing something here? He threw the words at you. It was final in the way and way harsher than he expected from Derek. The sharp edge of it wasn't for you. That part was directed toward himself. He never slept over at his house before. That'd be your guess for why it might have been a little awkward. There was clearly more to it. You frowned. I don't care if it's dumb. I want to know. His brows angled at the same time as a tight bend formed in the tent leg. The way he twisted it between his hands was too much for the thin piece of pole. He didn't say a word. You can always talk to me about things, you know, he spoke comfortingly. Derek, this isn't funny. Tell me what's happening. He said firmly, gave him an encouraging smile. You stared impatiently, tapping your foot. You can always talk to me. He sealed his eyes tight and dropped the leg. I don't like this music. I don't like this music on purpose this time. Despite all the effort it took him to ask you to come in the first place, that paled in comparison to this. Suddenly it seemed like he wished you were anywhere but right there. I can't tell you. What is going on? Derek's voice was so impotent. It was an impotent whisper. You'll think I'm the most annoying guy in the world. I am the most annoying guy in the world. It was such a bad idea. It was sneaky and judgy. I shouldn't have bugged you, but I already did. It's too late. Derek's posture pulled closer and closer together as he spoke. His fist tapped against the front of his chest and his knees bent inward. The pressure building inside was exerting a real force on him. What if you don't want to be friends anymore? Well, Derek, where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? The last part almost disappeared before he had a chance to hear it. He looked small and lost. I'll always be your friend. That's never gonna happen. Derek, please, I don't want you to feel bad. I just don't understand what's wrong. Alright, seriously now, spit it out. No, I just don't understand. The tension kept compounding, causing cracks where more words could slip through.
Well,
I had a reason why I invited you when I did. Why it needed to be now. Yes? Oh my god, you're moving away? Is that what he's gonna tell me? That this was his ulterior motive after all. Even though his eyes cracked open, Derek wasn't looking at you, but finally he sucked in a breath and took the plunge. Michiko, today is Father's Day. Your jaw dropped. You knew what day it was but couldn't have guessed that was Derek's motivation? You had completely forgotten that was today? Did he invite me over so then I wouldn't have to celebrate a lack of a father? I had completely forgotten that was today. You could put it together immediately, and though you were still stunned, you could put it into words. You thought I was going to be sad because it's Father's Day and I don't have a dad. Oh, Derek, that's actually really sweet. What the fuck? Derek lowered his head and pressed his shoulders up to his ears, trying to hide from the sound of it. Well, I wasn't thinking for sure that you'd be sad. I didn't know how you were going to feel about any of it, and that's what was chewing at me. Derek's... Damn, boy, you're so smart and very considerate. Derek poured out words one after another, trying to explain himself and the conflicting feelings he had bottled up the entire time. The floodgates had been open. It's not like I was around last year when this happened. I couldn't help wondering if it was a normal thing, or a good time, or a low point, or whatever. But I don't live in Sunset Bird. I can't walk on over like it's nothing to check. I had to come up with some other dumb way to be around. You're so cute. Derek's speaking pace slowed, but his blinks picked up speed. His rapid flow of words went from explanation to admonishment. It was enough for him to choke on. But that's stupid, because if you actually wanted me to be anywhere near you today, you could have asked yourself. And your moms are great, better than most dads, and you've got Elizabeth too.
sorry.
I shouldn't have made a whole big thing out of it because I made stuff up in my head. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. And then it went bone dry into silence. Derek dropped his arms to his sides in defeat. He could only look at you out of the corner of his eyes. He was such a sweet guy. Poor kid. His seriousness about something like that was hilarious. Derek had been trying to look out for you. The realization made you grateful. It shifted uncomfortably under his gaze. It wasn't something he asked for. It was a fairy that he put into your family. Knowing Derek viewed things that way was strange. No, he's such a sweet guy. Wait. Affectionately pinch his cheek. No, hug. Hug. Hugs all the time. It just happened instinctively. You wrapped your arms around his shoulders. Their caution turned to confusion. Michiko? His breath tickled your neck. After an extra squeeze, you let him go. You're really cute, Derek. Really? You're not gonna tell me to call your moms to come get you and walk out the door and never talk to me again? He is so dramatic. Like, why would anyone do that? That's what you thought of it. That's what you thought was gonna happen?
Maybe?
I figured at least say I'm a pain. Alright, you're a pain. Happy it's done. Derek crumbled over, gripping his hands against his legs and releasing a massive sigh like he'd finished a marathon. Well, okay. I'm sorry still. I should have just asked you instead of creepily making you come to my house so I could watch and see if maybe I could figure it out without having a normal conversation. That would have worked too. The emotional exhaustion from carrying that stress on his back really had taken its toll. Derek crouched completely and plopped onto the floor. You eased down to sit next to him. He tucked his legs up against his chest and tapped the top of his knees shyly. He was the last kid waiting to be picked for a team on the playground, and you were the captain who would include him. Would you want to talk now? I think that'd be good. Technically, shouldn't I ask you that? Because you're the one that didn't want to say anything. A ghost of a smile appeared on Derek's face. It didn't compare to the ear-to-ear grin you were used to, but it was enough to make everything feel a little more normal, a little more right. Honestly, Derek, I forgot it even was Father's Day. We don't celebrate it. We don't celebrate, and it doesn't matter to me at all.
What?
You did. Derek smacked his head against his legs, humiliated, but you could hear a few tiny chuckles, and you could see the way the laughter made his shoulders shake. I really dropped the ball, huh? I was trying myself crazy for nothing. That's not true. It's nice that you cared. I know I have someone who really worries about me, and that's really special. Derek's face tilted over to the side just enough for you to see the redness tinting his cheeks. You're adorable. Never change, Derek. Thanks, Michiko. Derek waited there on the floor silently, still curled up in a ball. If there was more you need to tell him, he wasn't going to miss it. What is it like having a dad? Is it different to how it's like with your mom? I hope doing this didn't ruin your own Father's Day celebration. I'm glad I've got 2 moms. Honestly, I feel a little bit like I do have a dad because of Mr. Holden. I hope doing this didn't ruin your Father's Day celebration.
No way!
He slapped the palm against the hardwood floor that made the outburst even more startling. Derek stared at you with complete seriousness. All he'd want is getting a card sometime, and bros might get him little kid kinds of gifts, a flower from the park or a Lego guy or something. You being here too is for sure not going to ruin it. Don't worry about that. Dad only wants to party all day on birthdays, but you can still come to those anyway. That's good. Nothing would have made you feel worse than having Derek throw away his and his family's celebration and give you one. But it was easy to believe what he said. He wasn't placating you. Placating. Derek wasn't a liar, even if sometimes he didn't tell you every thought and feeling in his head. Yeah. Your thoughts drifted away from Derek and even from you. They floated across the condo, out the window, and off into the vast summer sky. As the silence settled between you, Derek plucked at his shoelaces and chewed on the inside of his cheek uncomfortably. When you felt the need to fix everything or make it all better, it was a major hitch when it's not your problem to solve. The air conditioner whirred in the background through your fuzzy feeling mind's eyes. Through your fuzzy feeling mind's eye, you could picture your moms and your big sister. Then your brain and your body suddenly snapped together in full focus. Wait, what about Elizabeth? The mention of her name got the same instant reaction from Derek that you just experienced. His eyebrows lifted and his mouth opened soundlessly in a small O. She acts like she's over everything, but I think I remember back when we were little kids, she would get mad on Father's Day. Maybe that's why she was so aggressive yesterday. She didn't have friends who were coming over or anything, and Mom's had work. And now I'm gone too. Derek looked hard at the front door. Was he expecting her to walk through it, or was he planning on running over to Sunset for her to check? He had no idea.
Shoot.
I thought there might have been a chance of that. You're worried you're totally alone. You were upset you were stuck out here. That was a horrible realization you'd abandoned your sister. You tried to consider the possibilities as best you could with what you knew. I'm sorry if you hear Arya tearing up her dog toy. You shrugged it off. It was her problem, if there even was a problem. I'm not upset. I'm not gonna shrug it off. Let's try to consider the possibilities. Hey, we could call her. I'll do it if you feel weird about it. You gave a slight nod. Cool. Derek unfurled himself, got off the floor, and trotted into the hallway with purpose. Mounted right where the living room narrowed into a hallway set against the front wall was an off-white telephone. The phone at your house was wireless. Derek's had an elastic loop line that kept the receiver from going more than a couple feet away from its base. Visions of Nicholas launching a cordless phone in the air, purely for his own entertainment, made their way across your mind. The option the Suarezes went with was the most practical for the family. Your sibling, however, would throw a fit if she couldn't chat with her gal pals in private. Elizabeth, you wondered what she was thinking about right now. But you wouldn't have to imagine for longer. Derek didn't waste any time punching in your number. He had it memorized. There have been many times in the past Derek used that very device to call your house so the two of you could chat about your lives and make plans and whatever else. You ended up on the other side of things and for once got to watch him go through each of the motions he used to connect with the melody home. He stood with his back perfectly straight and pressed the phone to his ear as he waited for the solitary person, miles away from where he was, who could answer on the other end. Awkward seconds ticked by, one at a time. You could vaguely hear the ringing coming from the receiver bouncing off the hall wall, but then a wide, eager smile pulled all the way across Derek's face. She had picked up the phone. "Hey Elizabeth, it's Derek Suarez. Michiko's here at my house." As chipper and polite as Derek tried to be, there was obvious strain in his voice. He tucked a finger through one of the rubber-coated loops and twisted the stretchy phone line over and under until it wrapped all the way from his wrist up to the tip of his hand. Did he do that when he was talking to you?
What's up?
I was wondering how things were over there. You silently attempted to fill in the other half of the conversation based on how he was reacting, and what you knew about your sister. She definitely asked what on earth he was calling her for. No? Well, no. And it really got harder to grasp the context. Elizabeth was probably lobbed another question, but it could have been anything from, "Is Michiko dead?" to, "Did you have a nice sleepover, wink wink?" Derek's wide-panicked eyes gave you the impression that it wasn't going well, whatever it was. The words on the tip of his tongue were swallowed like a bitter pill. He grimaced at the wall in front of his face and did nothing else. "Derek, what happened?" Derek sighed deeply and clicked the receiver into the base with a limp-wristed nudge. He directed an impressively unimpressed stare at the phone. Unfortunately for him, Derek couldn't send that look over a phone line, even if it hadn't been dropped. When Derek turned to face you directly, he fought against his deflated appearance with a falsely casual shrug. She hung up. Typical. She was mad the person who called her was my friend, huh? It didn't help, but she sounded pretty bothered before I even said anything. Basically, she told me that Basically, she told me that unless the police, firefighters, the ambulance, or your mom's needed her, then I should tell you to talk to her when you were home.
I don't know.
And that she didn't want to tell me anything. Oh. A crease began to form on your forehead. Your sister wasn't happy, and you couldn't shake the horrible feeling that it wasn't just her usual bad attitude. The hole felt cramped, and you were suddenly uncomfortable being surrounded by these walls. Derek watched you helplessly, his fingers tense, clenching and splaying again. A moment passed, then he let out a heavy breath. He wasn't powerless anymore.
I've got a plan.
You do? Derek sprinted through the living area into his bedroom. The clatter of drawers opening and papers flying came through his open door. You slowly stepped to the edge of the hall to try to glimpse what was happening on the other side of the condo. He soon came bounding out again, clearly successful at something. Derek tossed a stack of colorful folded pamphlets across the surface of the coffee table. You jogged over to meet him there. You couldn't tell what they were for from a distance. "Let's bring the party to Elizabeth. There are bus schedules and stuff. I've only got to look at what times there are, and we can leave." How do you think of that so fast? That's amazing. Why do you have those? What? You're stunned into silence. He chuckled mischievously. "You know what I say? It's good to be prepared. And I did wonder about this kind of thing before. I can't drive, but what if there was an accident or other emergency or whatever, and it needs to be someplace right away? I already knew a lot of public transportation stuff because of that." Derek began to shuffle the papers around, and he flashed you a bright grin. "But I didn't think I'd be pulling this out so that I could go see Elizabeth of all people." Derek laughed lightheartedly over the joke. The words didn't feel very breezy to you. That was because, if he was honest, it wasn't about your sister. He'd spent time studying ways to get to Sunset for his friends, for Cove, and for you. With you and him living away from each other and not going to the same school, sometimes it seemed like maybe you stopped being a piece of his life once he left your town. This proved you definitely didn't disappear for Derek. Oh my god, that just makes her heart hurt more. If I know this kind of information when I was falling in love with Cove. He cared about you even when you weren't here. Weren't there. Fuck. And you could count on him even more than you had known. While you were stuck inside your own head, Derek had his nose in the brochures. He pressed his palms on the table, fervently scanned the timetables, and rambled more about his scheme. There isn't a direct line to Sunset, but it's kind of a small place. We can take a bus to Rail Station and get on a smaller shuttle for tourists. Derek's hand lifted from and then hit the smooth surface under his arm. Under him, making a solid smack noise. He was done searching. His gaze flicked up to your face. "Is that okay?" Are we just gonna do this? Thanks, Derek. That's good enough. You balled your hands as if it's a nada. You blinked in disbelief. Derek, however, stared unwaveringly. "I'm serious about this if you are." His absolute conviction was enough to convince you. You nodded. "We can leave a note for Mom about what happened, or..." Derek packed up the pamphlets, sticking them in the crook of his arm. He twisted his head behind him, but whispered to you covertly over his shoulder. "If it makes you feel better, we might be able to get back before she even knows." We should tell her.
Yeah.
Lost children does not sound good, or like children you don't know where they are at. One sec. Derek dashed to the back room with all the bus schedules in his arms. He shoved them into something, then ran out to rejoin you at the front of the condo with the bag swung over his shoulder. Next, he went into the kitchen to grab a note and pen from the counter. He hopped up on his tiptoes to lean over it and scribbled a few rows of explanation on paper. He jabbed the button to retract the pen nib with his thumb and set it down alongside the note.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Right. You scooped up your backpack and the two of you locked the now empty apartment behind you. At a brisk pace, Derek led the way out of the condo complex and down the city walks. You had to weave through the crowds of people making their own way across town. Most of them were much older and taller than you were. Between the mass of strangers and the immense skyscrapers bearing down on you from all sides, you felt like a very small part of a far bigger world. Oh! Wait, Derek offered his hand to you? No, let's just take his hand. He wrapped his own fingers around yours and held tight. That gave you the reassurance you'd hoped it would. You were in this together. You pushed forward until you reached the nearest bus stop. A group had already gathered in the same spot for the same purpose. Derek didn't fight to reach the front of the pack. He just kept to the fringes. You waited for anywhere from 5 minutes to 50 minutes. What the? It was pretty impossible to track time accurately when you felt every single sluggish second hit you like a brick. No matter how long it actually was, it was enough time to think. A part of you had felt as though you couldn't possibly seriously get on a bus and go back to Sunsetboro without any of your parents. That just wouldn't happen. That was probably why you went along with Derek's impulse as quickly as the idea had struck him. But reality hit you like a bus when an actual bus turned a corner and came your way. You gave Derek's hand another squeeze. He responded by tugging you a little bit closer to him. The massive vehicle hit its brakes and slowed to a halt. The doors opened to let out those who'd arrived at their destination as 70 riders. The crowd jostled together and filtered through and from the door. You and Derek went in at the tail end of the group. You had enough change in your pocket to pay the fare. Derek flashed a bus pass for his entry. The city bus was as overflowing with people as the streets were. You had to shuffle while it turned to your side to get through the aisle without knocking into the arms or legs of other passengers. There was barely enough space to breathe. Humid summer days had never been more miserable. You couldn't even find seats that were side by side. Instead, you had to set over 2 aisle seats that were across the way and 1 row diagonally from each other. That meant you had to let go of Derek, which was the worst of it all. Yeah, for sure. What the fuck? The automatic door creakily swung closed. You rocked as the wheels began to turn. You relaxed as best as you could. You wanted to move faster. You began to feel nauseous from everything. Despite what was going on, it was exciting to be here. You were scared. I was scared, bruh. You curled your hands around the edge of the seat like a death grip. It couldn't be over soon enough. But then you heard your name over the din. Chico, we can do it. The soft look on his face and encouragement in his voice were directed solely towards you. It was all he could offer, and it was enough. Thanks. Your lips perked up slightly at the edges of your mouth. Derek didn't attempt to carry on the conversation, not that he really could in the hectic space and the distance between you. He'd become completely focused on watching for your stop. He had a destination he needed to get you to, and he was going to do it no matter what. More stops passed by until eventually Derek leaned his chest over the open space to send a quick message. His tone was breathy? Breathy like a whisper, but way too loud to really be whispering. This is it. You shifted upright immediately and tugged the bell, marking this as a stop for the driver. Soon the bus came to a cautious halt along the edge of the curb. Once at a full stop, the doors popped open and you repeated the awkward shimmy through the aisle so you could exit. When your feet landed on the cracked ground, you sighed in relief. It was over. You made it. Where the hell are we? This is really good. On Derek's first step into the station, he pulled one of the brochures out of his pocket and flipped it open. He must have kept that single pamphlet with the necessary details when packing the rest of the collection away. Derek was prepared as always. He held it up to his face, mapping out the station and using the guide like a treasure hunter. He wandered around the wide open floor plan, searching up and down for the section where shuttles would load passengers. You were the first to spot the one vehicle headed towards a tiny tourist town and made you stop in place. Derek. Yeah? At the sound of his name, he lifted his face up above the station map and saw what you saw. Oh! The shuttle was barely 1/4 the size of the bus. It was a glorified van. You only recognized it for what it was thanks to the unusual pale orange paint job and also the word shuttle painted in blue across the doors. He tucked the bus schedule pamphlet into his back pocket and gave you a thumbs up. Derek bought tickets at a nearby customer service counter. There was no humoring the possibility of you buying your own ticket or paying for both. That wasn't a hill to die on today. Then you're ready for another ride. You poked your head inside the cabin. Only a handful of other travelers were nestled between 4 rows of seats. From the seat cushions to the smell, the shuttle was immensely more agreeable than the bus. You were even able to get spots side by side this time. Derek, though, wasn't in any more of a mood to talk. The physical atmosphere might have improved, but the discomfort he felt on the inside was still eating at him. You could only sit in silence. For all the gnawing tension, you did make it. The shuttle inevitably came to its stop in a Sunset Bird parking lot. The car was switched off and the driver gave permission for guests to leave. While the other riders leisurely shuffled around the bags set by their feet and readjusted their hats, you and Derek hopped right off into freedom. Derek took a couple stumbling steps after his leap from the car and he stood in place. He watched for your next move, counting on your guidance to finish the journey. It was time to switch roles. Sunset Bird was your turf, not his. You spun in a single circle, scanning the air for clues as to which of the multiple big, flat, mostly empty parking lots you'd landed in. When you swung back around, you got a glimpse behind the shuttle and spotted the corner of the grocery store. You couldn't have been closer to home. We're almost there. This way. You waved your hand over your shoulder and towards the main street to rally your single troop for a charge.
Nice.
Awesome. Nice work, Michiko. He made a break for it and launched across the blacktop. You ran with him. There was no time to lose. Derek was so fixated, he might accidentally leave you in the dust if you didn't push yourself. You flew out of the parking lot and dashed down the sidewalk seen a million times before. From there, it was a turn into the residential area. Before you knew it, you arrived at the top of the hill on your street. You were so close. The decline of the road propelled your steps even faster. Derek almost crashed into you when you both dove towards the entryway of your house. You caught yourself by bracing your hands against the front door. It took a second for you to separate your stinging palms from the wood so you could get your key out. But you got it in the lock, turned the key, and pulled. Finally, huffing and puffing, you stumbled inside your home. After everything, you almost didn't know what to expect when you laid your eyes on the scene. But it was your living room, exactly as it was every day of your life. Nothing was out of place. The low hum of the fridge was the only sound. Elizabeth clearly hadn't torn the house apart in an emotional rampage, although you didn't know what her room looked like. Michiko? You snapped your head to the sound, and there she was, standing on the first step of the stairs, Elizabeth. Her mouth remained open despite not saying anything else. An eyebrow was arched high on her forehead. Hi. Hi. Wait, is that why you were calling? To tell me you were coming back way early? No. You explained everything directly, joked about the whole debacle, you awkwardly admitted what was going on, you casually broke down the situation. I explained everything directly. She's just my sister, so I would just be honest, straight out, flat out. Go ahead. There's no point in beating around the bush, not after how much you went through to do what you did. Me and Derek wanted to see if you were okay because you were alone here on Father's Day. She let out a single derisive bark of laughter, and more was threatening to spill out. It wasn't the worst reaction you could have gotten, all things considered. How did that even come up? The tip of Derek's foot scuffed at the wooden floor and Paul kept sparkling clean. He meekly confessed his part in the tobacco.
Well,
I wanted Michiko to spend the night at my place so I could make sure she wasn't sad or something. That's what I was hoping for anyway, but it wasn't a great plan. He couldn't keep sneaking a shy glance at you. The mocking humor that colored her face was wiped away. In an absolutely deadpan way, she said 2 words.
oh.
That's adorable. That was enough to end the conversation. Derek had no comeback, and your sister simply stared blankly. Was this a mistake? Should we not have come? Does that mean you're okay? Come on, how are you really doing, Elizabeth? Should we not have come? A seriously uncomfortable 3-way staring contest commenced. You kept your focus locked on your sister. She did the same to you. Derek flip-flopped between Elizabeth and you. Then Elizabeth caved. She pinched the bridge of her nose and groaned dramatically. Fine, you kids win. Today was annoying. Not because I care that I only get to have 2 moms and can't celebrate Daddy Day. It's because every year somebody else is busy and I'm stuck doing nothing. And so, no, I wasn't in a sunshine and rainbows kind of mood. It didn't help that you ended up getting off that boat either. And then he called me. She whipped on a customary finger right at Derek's chest.
Rude.
This guy was able to throw you a party out of nowhere and decided while doing that to give me a ring while I was stuck in the house like a loser. Rude. That's why I hung up. Her smirk returned much more earnest than before. I didn't think you were going to race across the city to come keep me company. The kind of affectionate teasing from your older sister warmed your heart. It was special and all the discomfort was worth it. You could already tell today would be something to laugh about for years to come. Derek remained serious. He blinked in rapid succession and mustered up the will to continue with his regretful appeal. Elizabeth, I'm really sorry for not thinking about this more. Elizabeth cut that right off. She swished her hand in front of her face, trying to physically bat away Derek's sentiment.
No.
Don't be. Please, save your energy. She settled the tips of her fingers against the center of her forehead, her other hand resting on her hip that she just jutted out to the side. It's not your job to babysit me. You're not my big brother, and I'm not the one you like. Like? Elizabeth was as sassy as ever, and Derek's overly self-reflective maturity seemed childish when cast in that light. A dark red blush grew across Derek's cheeks, but he smiled. It was a good reminder that he demanded a lot more from himself than others did. As if for the first time, your sister praised you and Derek, huddled together, sweaty and frumpy from the journey. Oh dear, where are my manners? I've got guests and haven't even offered them a drink. She shrugged one arm while sashaying over the kitchen, opening the fridge. Not very politely, Elizabeth shouted out while sticking her head into the chilled shelves. What do you want?
Thanks.
Just water, please. Apple juice, orange juice, tropical juice mix, cola, lemon, lime soda, root beer, milk, soy milk. I don't want anything. It's apple juice. Of water and apple juice. She set a bottle of water and container of apple juice properly on the counter when her hands were free. She reached back into the fridge to snag the carton of tropical juice as well. That's 2 glasses. Elizabeth poured a glass of juice for herself and filled a glass of apple juice for you too. One more time, Elizabeth, the demure hostess she was, shouted at you from the kitchen. Come and get it. She punctuated the statement, bumping the fridge door shut with her hip. Then she walked back into the living room, taking a sip of her juice. Arya's whining. Derek took it upon himself to pick up both of your drinks. He went straight to the kitchen, grabbed the drinks, and then returned to offer you yours. You accepted it from him. Thanks. It made your sister snicker over the rim of her glass. Her gaze stayed on you while she lowered herself slowly down to sit on the floor. You shared a quick look with Derek, but ultimately joined your sister on the ground. The 3 of you arranged yourselves in a small circle shape, each with your drink in hand. It almost felt like being a kid in kindergarten again. Elizabeth lifted her cup out over the center of the group.
Come on.
To this auspicious occasion, cheers to us. As sarcastic as her tone was, this fun she was having was genuine. Cheers to us. Happy Father's Day. Bad Father's Day to you. Lift your drink. Cheers. He thrusted his own drink out in celebration before bringing it back towards his chest. He twisted off the cap of the water bottle and gulped down about half of it in one go. Derek idly wiped at his mouth when Elizabeth asked a flat question. How did you actually get here? Is Miss Suarez idling her minivan out there? Derek's reply was perfectly cheery. After a long wait there, his spark was finally coming back.
Nope.
It took a bus. A bus. And a shuttle. None of the buses go right into Sunset Bird, but we made it. Well, obviously you can see that.
Okay.
Another question. Are you going to be completely grounded for this? I left a note for my mom. She'll understand. Though this was an emergency. Or it could have been one. Huh. You felt incredibly bashful. It's worth it no matter what happens. You simply shrugged. We were on a mission. Elizabeth rested her eyes shut and took another long sip of juice. I won't tell our moms. Thanks. We're all partners in crime. I should go now. Would you want to hang out for a little while? Let's make Father's Day cards. Would you want to hang out for a little while? How? We can't go anywhere. Derek jumped right on board with that idea. He had an answer for almost any problem. We'll play a board game. It'd be fun and we've got a little time.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Me too.
Okay.
Nice. The 3 of you agreed on the classic game and did one round. Soon stacks of fake money, tiny figures, and tokens are scattered around the living room while each of you fought for financial supremacy. Elizabeth shifted to lay on her stomach and Derek sat up, vigilant for anyone who tried to cheat the system. You really felt like a kid again. The game eventually got so out of hand it was mutually decided to be a 3-way tie. It was a nice time. When it was really over, Elizabeth spoke up. Alright, you've got to go. She stretched her legs and arms, spreading out wide. Being bored all day is going to be the least of our worries if moms come in and you've magically appeared in the living room. Right, instead we got to magically vanish into thin air. Her eyes narrowed, looking between you and Derek. Enjoy what's left of your little sleepover. Derek's mouth dropped open fruitlessly. Then he closed it again. He didn't know what to say to that. Finally, he waved and chirped out a generic good farewell. Bye, Elizabeth. See you around. You gave her a hug. Elizabeth rolled her eyes in a staged annoyance. She couldn't take the smile off her face, and she ultimately returned the gesture, wrapping her arms around your neck.
Goodbye.
This is all weird, man. We're forced to leave our own house, so then that way we could actually come back later. With your mission accomplished, the 2 of you returned to the wide open world. Returning to the parking lot was a far more leisurely trip than your arrival had been. There was time before it take off again. You drifted ahead like the lazy white clouds above you. The fluffiness of them made you think of marshmallows. The pale orange 12-seater came into sight, parked at the far edge of the lot. You and Derek got your tickets to ride and hopped on. A few scattered tourists in their sun hats and floral-patterned shorts were seated throughout the cabin. The small number of people in this space still felt cramped because of a limited room in the car. You could smell their sunscreen in the air. In a slow curving motion, the shuttle pulled out. Derek sat rigidly, silently tapping his pointed fingers against the top of his knees for the entire trip. No words were exchanged by anyone, except a few rules and updates mumbled out by the driver. People were tired from their own long adventures out in the world. You could only imagine what the strangers sharing the shuttle had been through, with barely audible acoustic guitar tracks played on the radio. Eventually, the shuttle arrived. Each person went their separate ways, except for you and Derek, who stayed by one another's side as a pair. He navigated the station with the maps he had kept tucked in his back pocket as a guide. And finally, he sat down in the deep blue, well-worn fabric of a city bus seat for the last ride. When the bus pulled out this time, Derek wiped his brow with his wristband. You made it back to Derek's city. No mortifying calls would have to be made from an overpriced bus stop payphone to beg one of your parents to come get you. Derek slipped lower in his seat and stretched his legs out in the aisle. The bus wasn't even half full, so making a little extra room for himself wasn't getting in anyone's way this time. On the outside, the sun was still dipping under the horizon, giving the air relief from its sweltering heat. It all came together to make the metal tube of public transportation less suffocating, totally uncomparable to the experience you had at the height of the afternoon. Now it was safe to relax.
Phew.
Good job, Les. He chirped with a mixture of relief and fulfillment, like you just had an 8-hour shift at a serious adult company. We're victorious people. Thank you for helping me, Derek. I really appreciate all this, It means a lot to me that you were here. I think this was the best Father's Day I've ever had. I think that would give him the biggest compliment. Derek made a big show of swatting his hand nonchalantly, which pretty much completely precluded it from being a casual gesture. The grin on his face couldn't even pretend to be unaffected. He was thrilled.
I try.
No worries, Michiko. Siblings look out for siblings. And he looked directly at you. Friends look out for friends. Lovers look out for lovers. I know that I can count on you to help me out with the bros when I need it. We're a good team, right? I'm here for you too. I can always rely on you. Thanks for holding my hand before. Should we bring up the hand holding?
You're welcome.
Anytime. You rest the head against Derek's. You put your arm around Derek's shoulder. Derek leaned against your shoulder, relaxing the back seat. You rested your head against Derek. Hell yeah. Gently, you shifted over to let the side of your face nestle against your seat neighbor. Derek's eyes fluttered closed with a sweet sigh. I bet he's so proud of himself. You're snuggled in for the final leg of the journey, and all you had to do was wait. There was a soft vibration in the back of the bus. It slowly went up your spine and all the way down to the tip of your toes. During the ride before, the sensation had frayed at your nerves. Now it was soothing. With every stop that passed, your eyelids grew heavier. If yours wasn't just the fourth one down the line, you might have fallen asleep. You and Derek were the only ones who got off at that point. The two of you hopped from the front door of the bus onto the sidewalk. Derek leisurely retraced the familiar path you had gone on with him, matching step for step. It was peaceful, and with how close you had been to dozing off, it almost felt like walking through a dream. Finally, you arrived at the Suarez condo after a long, eventful afternoon away. You may not have lived there, but seeing their door made you feel welcome and safe. Derek clicked his key into the slot and pulled his hand forward. All traces of sleepiness that had lingered in your eyes were instantly wiped away. Derek unavoidably tripped the wire on a mini explosion.
Derek's back!
The condo wasn't nearly as empty as it was when you left. The whole rest of the family had arrived before you. They were gathered together on the couch and bar stools, except for Nicholas, who had jumped to his feet to launch himself at his brother. His short arms circled around Derek's legs. It was an interaction that had happened dozens, maybe hundreds of times before. That was a hallmark of their own unique sibling relationship. Derek fulfilled his part of the tradition and stroked Nicholas's hair. At the same time, he offered the rest of the family a laid-back greeting. Hey!
Good evening.
His parents must not be worried. They must be like, well, we trust them. Good evening to you both. Hi.
Welcome.
There was a knowing lilt to her tone and a crook in her smile. Did you have a good trip? Clutched securely between her fingers was a piece of paper. You didn't have to think too hard to guess what it was. The note you left explained what happened.
What a day.
It's best you were able to spend time with your family. His parents were both perfectly contented, yet you had their full support for going on an adventure. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. It was good. Derek gratefully replied to his parents, all the while sneaking a warm gaze at you. You quietly nodded
Wonderful.
head. Yeah, I'm just gonna quietly nod. Nicholas simply held tight to Derek's jeans the entire time, happy he was there and totally unaware of what the older people were talking about. George stood in between his parents with his arms pressed to his sides. He had been listening with bemusement, but his thin eyebrows pinched and his lips
Now what?
pursed. Miss Suarez snickered cheerily, resting her actual cheek against Mr. Suarez.
I hate to say it.
Well, I'm sorry to say you better turn right around and go back the way you came. It's time to bring Michiko home, but don't worry, I'll drive. Oh yeah. With a wink and a grin, Derek scratched the back of his head. You chuckled right along with him. You had a great time staying with the Suarez family, but you were very much looking forward to seeing your moms and being reunited with your own sibling after a humorously short time apart. There would be plenty more moments of fun and laughter to come when you were. Thanks to Derek, it was truly an occasion worth commemorating. That was such a roller coaster. Like, we had a nice sleepover, but then Derek felt guilty, completely guilty, and felt like he was a bad guy. And then we had to go see my sister to only then come back to now to just go back to the place we just left from not that long ago. So that's a crazy hell of a trip. Our next episode will be the boardwalk, so I hope it's kind of like, an amusement park date kind of situation. But I guess it won't be a date because, like, we're still just friends. And my girl's the only one that's seeing it differently. And then we'll end it off with the soiree, speed up to step 3, and then step 4 will be completely all Derek epilogue, so no Cove at all in sight, thank God, because Cove is a distraction. But thank you guys for watching today's episode, this long ass episode. I'm probably just gonna wrap up recording here today, maybe, possibly, or just take a little break. But thank you guys for watching today's episode. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.